Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of MSP Business School. And today we've got one of our virtual roundtable sessions for you. And this is actually a little bit of a follow-up to our special episode that we had where we talked a little bit about selling post-pandemic, and also a couple of the AMAs, Ask Me Anythings, that Robb and Tim have been holding on their own. So let's call this Common Questions That Come from Account Managers Worldwide or Sales Reps Worldwide. Sound big, sound huge, guys?
Yeah. Sounds very chill.
I'll take it.
Yeah, right. So, with that being said, let's kind of dive in a little bit. And, one of the biggest things that people have been telling me they're struggling with, and it was one of the questions that came post-meeting last week, was how do we get people cornered? How do we back baby up in the corner now, right? Getting people on the phone is getting difficult. It was always difficult. Voicemail jail existed, but now people don't sit at the same phone necessarily. And yeah, there's UCAS and all those great tools, but the reality is people have got a built-in excuse now to not pick up the phone. Oh, it never transferred over, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
So what are you guys seeing out there as tactics to get out in front of people?
So there's a couple of ways that I see it. And Timmy, back me up on this. And this one is a tried and true, right? And one is kind of new. So, as we know, email is tough to get through. But LinkedIn, and that's because there's so much spam, it goes into your junk or goes into clutter. It goes not where you want it. But if you message people through LinkedIn, it's a priority system, right? It's a white label system, so it goes straight through. So if you're trying to get a hold of people, that is a nice way to try and introduce yourself and get a hold of people and initiate a conversation. It's kind of a passive way, and it gets you right to the person that you're trying to get to, because LinkedIn goes straight to the top of your inbox. And the other way is that I like is if I can't get through to the person and I know that they're there somewhere, I always dial sales. And I go right into the sales because the sales guy is going to help me out, right? Because he or she has gone through this exact same thing 15 times today. And so they kind of help. They're usually more receptive to help you out and get you to the right place. And if you do an inter-office transfer, the person usually picks up. So, that's one of the ways those are two of the ways that I like to do it, to try and get myself in there if I'm struggling on the prospecting side of getting through. But I always go in LinkedIn first. That's my bread and butter right now.
Yeah, I think it's. I agree with that. I think it's, since the pandemic came around, it really moved from a lot of calling and voicemails to I think a combination, more of a three-pronged, call, email, and LinkedIn. I personally, I know that's kind of worked for me. The good thing about LinkedIn is when you message them, not only is it on top, but as the stalker that only a salesperson can be, they can actually see when the person views it, right? So it's good to know whether they respond or not. It's good to know if somebody sees it. I mean, that's a relatively large piece of it. So if somebody sees the message, they hear your voicemail, you send them an email, they see the logo multiple times, it's a good framework to start chipping away and eventually get through to that person and have a good conversation.
I mean, Brian, you're busy. You're busy all day long. What gets through to you?
So I it's kind of funny. I play both sides of the seat, right? I'm the guy reaching out and I'm the guy getting reached to, right? So let's start with the reach to part. What gets my attention? Somebody that's persistent over time, right? Sales is about timing. 90% of it's timing. Just because I don't need what you're selling me today doesn't mean that there's not a need for it later. And plenty of times, this goes back to even when, I was in the buyer seat MSP days, I would catalog the people that called me consistently or sent me some value statements and basically took the long view on it. After, the first couple of calls, I expect them to say, hey, let's get on a call, let's get a meeting, let's get on a call. But when you get that rep that hits you with the kind of the breakup email, hey, it looks like this isn't the right time or place for you, but then follows up with me 3 months later and says, hey, just want to see if things changed. Hey, thought you might like this article. Hey, this. That's the person that when I finally need the product, I give a call back to. And when they ask, oh my God, can't believe you reminded me. No, man, you did a good job of keeping your company out in front of me, waiting and understanding that this was a timing game, right? I mean, whether they understood it or not, it might be, not sincerely true, but, I'm always trying to coach even when I'm buying, right? So it's like, it's like, hey, you by you feeding me over time, you hit me at the right time. Now I'm coming back to you. I don't want to go through your sales channel. I don't want to deal with anybody else because you put in the work to get this relationship started. And I'm happy to go tell your boss that too if I buy. Hey, Tim did a great job, man. He was professionally persistent with me, not too much so. Gave me valuable information, and when we finally hit the point where your product fit into our mix, or he got the call.
Yeah. Well, and that in a very real world, that goes back to one thing that used to drive Rob nuts when we were still in the MSP industry. Just a matter of if, or just matter of when, not a matter of if. It's just a matter of when, right? Like an MSP is going to make a mistake. Your job as a salesperson is to stay top of mind, stay persistent, but not annoying. It's a very fine line. And every once in a while, you need to ask in an email, hey, I just want to make sure I'm on the right side of that line. But if you do that in a joking way, that separates you that much more, right? It's just about a constant drip.
Yeah. And I'm going to pivot now to the selling side of this equation, right? So, what gets me on the buy side is professional persistence and bringing value. And that really translates into what you need to do on the sales side too, right? Because I'm kind of telling you what that person looks like. LinkedIn has been an interesting animal over the last 12 months. It's a great source for leads. It's a great way to catch with people. Now everybody knows it.
Yep.
And people are a little bit more resistant to make those connections with the people they don't know, especially if they've got business development, account executive, or some other piece in their title, right? Yeah. But even where I get to use co-founder and CEO, people aren't as quick to connect because there's just so much noise, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many people automating the process. I mean, I know your company and my company both uses tools for LinkedIn outreach.
Yep.
And my tools give me stats, and I've seen some of the take number be a little bit lower of late. And I think that's because there is that steady stream of noise coming into people's boxes. It used to be that you were getting connected with maybe a couple times a week. Now you're getting connected with a couple times a day. The other thing you got to be wary of as a sales rep is going too quick for the sale. This is the number one biggest mistake people make in LinkedIn all the time. And God forbid you're doing it on autoresponder only. But, because there's nothing worse than getting a 2-paragraph follow-up 30 seconds after I make the connection. Because it tells me, because you didn't even have enough time to type that or even cut and paste it for my accepting, right? So, so that's like my personal pet peeve. But the bigger thing is you got to give to get, right? And this is where sales reps, I think, make the biggest mistake when they want to make connections with people. They connect. They hit them with the first email. Oh, here's my lead magnet, or here's my thing. Second email. Hey, let's get on a call. What have you brought of value to this customer yet? And how have you engaged with them? I look at things in a different approach. Connect with the people you're going to connect with, and then listen, just like we talk about in sales calls. I use Sales Navigator. So all those people that, get connected with me, I'm able to see when they post. And get in there and spend a few minutes. We are all sitting in front of, a game at night or something like that. We all got a half hour where we can get on our phones and just contribute to the cause by liking people's posts, putting a quick comment, building a relationship, helping them know you're there. And guess what? You'll be surprised how many times they come find you if you're patient. And back to what you said about what Rob says, it's a matter of when. Yeah. If you can build a good relationship, not immediately hit them with a sales thing, that's easy, great. If you can get that connection that you sent maybe through an automated format, but then actually respond with a, hey, thanks for connecting. Can't wait to learn about your company. Hit me if you need any help. Something that comes off much more authentic and genuine.
Yeah.
And just stop. Avoid the temptation to do anything
Yeah.
else. You'll be amazed what can happen down the road. And that is something that I think is critically lost in many of the LinkedIn campaigns. And it's certainly critically lost when, as always, we try to outsource these functions to the lowest cost bidder. Because if you don't have a proper follow-up methodology and it takes labor, you're just going to be part of the noise.
Well, and to that point, I mean, one of the things that even now I've got a half an hour blocked out every day on my calendar, and it's just going through trying to find people that I've connected with, see what they've posted, like it, share it, comment on it. I mean, that alone has, just like you said, it doesn't happen right away, but it does happen eventually, where there's always gonna be a segment of them that eventually they're like, all right, who's this person
This
again?
guy's always here, man.
Yeah, OSR
He's always
manager.
here
What do
with
they do?
something good.
Yeah, and that works. You've got to be patient. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does work.
You know, we're in the era of personal branding, and everybody loves to talk about how they are thought leaders, right? Well, you want to be a thought leader, get out and contribute. It's that simple. Get out and solve somebody else's problem that they asked, and not the problem you asked, waiting for people to tell you how to solve it, or how you said to fix it, how it really works.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Rob, we want to move on to the next topic, maybe. So the next topic that came up in the question and answer period that we didn't get to is, how do we go now about the virtual presentation in the MSP format, right?
Yeah.
You know, my product's easy. I got software. I could take you through all the cool things that go on, right?
Yeah.
But MSP proposals are certainly a much different animal. So what are you guys seeing out there that works?
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing, right? We had to do a mass shift to Zoom and Teams, right? And nobody was really ready for it. So, you know, they opened up the screen, they did a screen share, and they brought up their proposal that had all the T's and C's, and they just put up that, you know, proposal and tried to hope that it worked. And what we're seeing that's being really successful right now is some type of advanced PowerPoint system, right? Whether you're doing the PowerPoint and you had it professionally done, or you're using something like Visme or something like that, and you're using it's got to be about the pictures, and it's got to be about the testimonials. It cannot be about a bunch of words filling up the screen. Zoom is a visual medium. It's, you know, and it's got to be pictures, right?
Yeah.
And quick testimonials as you're speaking. And it's so advanced that Brian, I blew Brian away with that
it just right out of his seat, knocked him out of his seat. It was
knocked me out of my
the craziest thing.
So that's because I got something. That's because I had to get something to bring into this, like bringing props too, right? So, you know, I get that. But what about the people that believe this? Oh, of course, now we're going to have this issue, right?
Right. A little closer. Yeah,
but the problem is, it doesn't like it. So anyway, for those that can't see, the book I'm trying to hold up is Real Leaders Don't Do PowerPoint. And the concept, it's a book I picked up because I love PowerPoint. And, you know, it's one of those concepts there. But the truth is, PowerPoint is a medium that you have to use today. You got to make it visual. You got to make it distinct, but you also got to get to the point, right?
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's what, and don't read from the slides, and really get creative on that kind of thing too. It's got to be an accompaniment tool. But, you know, at the end of the day, people aren't big fans of PowerPoints.
I can't disagree with that. I mean, look, the biggest mistake that people make is, and you go to any conference, doesn't matter if it's MSP or not, half of the presentations you go to, it's just somebody reading down a PowerPoint that they wrote word for word, and it's like, come on, bro, like I can read, like, just, so less is more when it comes to the PowerPoint. Less is more. Focus on some bullet points, and those are just talking points that you elaborate on, and then you know, for the people who are more visual, like personally I am, like I need cartoons, you know, like the little monkey with the symbols above the head. Like I need stuff like that so I can understand better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like less is more. Although 12 months ago, or I guess 13 months ago now, I would say I would have believed much stronger, don't ever use a PowerPoint. But now, hey, it is what it is. Like, you got to adapt.
Tim, you just hit an interesting point there. I wonder if somebody could do a whole proposal in meme format.
Yeah.
And win.
It would be memorable. They would remember you.
Yeah.
I might take that as something to attempt.
Yeah, you might.
Yeah, and you know, like as you're going through your presentation right now, because you can't really see, you know, their visual cues as you're, you know, speaking to them, because their images are all along the bottom, and you know, you're doing a screen share. You have to do the check-ins. Like every slide before you move on, you've got to check in. Does this all make sense? And you're looking for that yes. And if you're not getting it, you can't move on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Because you're not seeing body language, you're not seeing what people are doing. And so there's a lot more check-ins now, right? With what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, something I didn't think of. I mean that, you again, 13 months ago, you go on a meeting, you should be doing check-ins every few minutes, every 5 minutes, say, depending on how the conversation's going, obviously. But yeah, you cannot, you can't change the slide unless everybody is on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, it was all like if you're solving an issue, if you have an issue and then you're solving it, you check in to make sure that they understand your solve. Or if they have an objection, you check in to make sure that they understand your solve, your objection handling technique. And now it's not, that's part of it still, yeah, but also it's slide based, right? You know, and you got to keep it down to 7 to 12 slides tops. And that's part of the intro. That's all the way to the final one, which is the pricing. It's just, you can't just inundate them with 15 slides about your security and your security protocols and, you know, 30,000 word dump on a slide. You know, it's just not work. It won't work.
Yep. And to your guys' point, you know, don't show up and throw up is the number one. You know, you've got to look at it and take pauses in this. And I'm even going to go one step further and say, don't be camera shy.
Yeah.
Now, most of us aren't anymore, but if you want to make that personal connection, you got to turn the camera on. One, you might get some visual cues back, you know, which helps in the conversation, because I do look for that. You know, I want to look for, are they rustling for papers on their desk, or are they actually being attentive, you know, those kind of things. And then the second thing is people want to buy from people they feel familiar with.
Yeah.
And, you know, I did a little informal study back in September. I did 50% of my demos without camera, and I did 50% with camera. I basically alternated meetings. Now, some of it could have been quality of prospect, don't get me wrong, but I closed 2/3 more on the video demos. Yeah. And it was just because, you know, look, people want to feel connected, especially, you know, well, we're getting near the end of it, but during these times of disconnect, it brings some familiarity with people.
Yeah, but not all of us can be as handsome and, you know, great.
Brother, I got a face for radio. Who are you kidding, man? If anything, I've just watched it expand during COVID times, you know? If I could actually show images, I'd show you the walking treadmill under the standing desk.
But I to that point though, God, when was it? It was not that long ago. I had a prospecting call just within the last couple of weeks. I had a prospecting call through Teams, and they wouldn't get on. Like I was talking to them, I was talking to a black screen, and it's like in my head, I'm just like, but you're an IT company.
Yeah.
Like you like this. You just go on screen. Just go on screen.
I've had plenty of people not come on screen.
Oh, really?
And that's their prerogative, you know, but I'll stay on screen even when they're not on screen, even though it can be a little awkward feeling. Don't get me wrong, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, granted, I think I do more Zooms than the average bear. So, you know, it's just kind of protocol now. But, you know, the reality is people are that way, you know, especially, you know, I mean, now we're getting outside sales, but I've got collective meetings where I might have 10, 12 people on. And some of those people will stay dark the whole time. Sometimes I think it's just because they don't want to be at the meeting.
Yeah.
But some people, I think, you know, if they haven't really gotten proficient with Zoom, I wouldn't be surprised if they're just in a spot in their house at a moment where it's not tidy and they just don't want to expose that moment as well. Because let's be fair, you know, it's a different day and age today, and those things happen.
Yep.
And that I can see completely.
Somebody let me know I had a cardboard box behind me when I was doing it without a background very, very nicely. I thought it was out of frame. Like the box you got back there.
Yeah.
What'd you get from Amazon? All right, guys. I think, you know, those were the two primary questions I think we got. I mean, the last thing I think we should cover before we wrap up this session is when do you quit?
Mm.
When do you stop pursuing a prospect? It's an amazing concept. I think we'd all agree sales reps stop too early in the prospecting cycle. The magic doesn't happen until around call 7. Yet if you do studies of your inside sales rep, you'll be surprised how many times the dialing stops that customer at 4 calls.
Mm-hmm.
But let's play the other way. You got a good guy that's chasing after a person for a while. When do you quit?
You want to go first?
Yeah. So this is just my opinion, and I'll preface it with one of my biggest strengths was following up, but it could also be a weakness too on my end. I am of the no stone is unturned variety, and if I knew I had a company that fit within the geographic reach, the size, and the industries that we're looking for, I never saw a reason to stop following up. Now, that didn't mean I would follow up on a regular basis. You're not calling that company every week by any means. It might just be a quarterly check-in. But if you find somebody who could be on that ideal 250 list, or somebody that really you just know could be a good client of yours, my opinion is it changes, but you never stop.
Yeah, and I'll go at it from the proposal side. So on the proposal side, there is a time where it leaves your sales funnel and just goes back into prospecting.
Yeah.
But if you've gone to the proposal meeting and you've been ghosted for 8 weeks, right? You've completely ghosted for 8 weeks. You're done. You're out. They're not interested. And like, there's different things you can do during that time. It's not just you calling and then you emailing and calling and emailing. There's other things that you would do during that. But if you're just 100% ghosted for 2 months in a row, you're done.
Yeah.
Right? You're done, and you can't have it, in there anymore as a sales manager. And that's being very, very generous, because here's what reps do. They don't make enough follow-up calls in the prospecting stage, but they'll follow up for years on the proposal stage, right? Because they'll think, if I just make one more call, it's going to happen.
They're going to pick up this time.
Such a cute little deal. I love it so much. I want to hug it.
Right? That business isn't even in business anymore. They moved to Arizona. He's still calling. Like,
See, I'll throw my 2 cents in. I do a little bit different approach. I do kind of a 3-step follow-up when I'm getting ghosted, not in the normal process. But if I send an email with, hey, we've gotten our proposal, did our follow-ups, what's our next appropriate steps, and I get nothing there, I'll do another follow-up, call it 3 to 5 days later, where I say, hey, just want to check in, make sure you received this proposal, want to answer any questions you have, should we jump on a call, and I put my link there. Then I'll let it go another week. And if I'm totally ghosted for another week, at that point, then I'll hit the email. Have you gone in another direction? That's okay if you have. I just don't want to be a pest to you persistently. So at this point, if this isn't, if this isn't the right tool for you, or the timing's not right, just let me know. And I'll close the chapter, if you will. That third email will often get people that are just sitting on their hands to say, hey, whoa, I don't want out yet. I just need a little bit more time. Well, good. Just define it for me. Right.
Yeah.
But if I don't get that reply by the third email, no matter how good the sales call was or anything that I thought was wonderful, it's fill or kill time. I just kill it.
Yeah.
Now they stay in our marketing sequences until they opt out. So they're still going to be, we're still keeping some mindfulness on it, and we're not running away. And I may set up a 3 to 6 month, check in again. But you got to be real with yourself on these deals too. At what point is it obvious that no matter, you may have had the greatest meeting in the world, but you were the first at the table. And they may have even had a better meeting than you the second meeting after that, right? And those are the things you can't see. But at some point, you got to say stop too.
Yeah. So we do it the same way, except we have a 4th email. And ours is the white flag email.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for years and years. So.
Yeah, and oddly enough, we got that white flag email from somebody who was trying to get a hold of me to sell us something. And in fairness, I actually never responded to the guy, but I did take his email. It was really good. And it's just like, it basically says, hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you for however long. I'm just raising the white flag. Like, I'm just, this is me just turning over, showing my belly. Just want to see, just want to see what's going on. And that email, I almost responded, but I still didn't, but whatever. But it was something that it wasn't a service that was even associated with something that we would need them to.
But it was such a good email.
It was. Yeah. Still use it.
So sales rep that's chasing Tim out there, if you're still out there, he liked your email.
Yeah.
Sorry about it,
really
though,
good.
pal.
You're on the list.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've covered all we can cover on this one, guys. Anything else you want to add as closing statements before we break?
No, I mean, we're coming out of this, and it's funny, like we're talking about all the things that you have to do right now. And in the next quarter and a half, 2 quarters, we're going to be changing this entire thing again as we come out of all this, COVID mess. So, I mean, all this stuff that we're talking about works for right now, but it's going to be changing again. So stay tuned for sure.
It's going to be changing quick.
We're as soon as anticipate you're going to have to change your sales style as soon as the conferences start for real.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%.
Once people start congregating publicly, it'll be a lot different. So stay tuned. Give us plenty to talk about in the back half of the year.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's right.
Robbie, you want to close this one out?
Sure. Okay. So for anyone who's looking to, hear more about this, we're going to be putting our LinkedIn information on here, Brian?
Our LinkedIn information, I think, is on the website anyway.
All right. Well, there you go. All right. So this episode will be on mspbusinessschool.com and anywhere that you can get your podcast. Also, if you want to have us answer any questions, please send us an email. We'd love to put your questions on air and we'll discuss them thoroughly. And that pretty much ends it for us today, fellas. Talk soon.
All right. Sounds great.
All right.